All right, and hello. So, welcome to the Edpuzzle Live. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. You should be in the Nearpod already. So, we have compare and contrast. So, as always, remember the behavior. Please be respectful. Those of you that are in class, we need to tone down on all the chit chat that's outside of the classroom. I do hear that a lot, and it's disrespectful to the people that are in other classrooms trying to listen, and as well the people that are at home. So, if you are in my class and you are not logged in, and you are chit chatting amongst yourself, you need to be mindful that there are other people that are still learning, that are still listening, and I'm still teaching. So let's be respectful. Again, respect is the number one thing on my list, and that's respecting each other and also respecting me as well. Cameras are always welcomed. And please be prepared to speak and answer questions. If you are in class, you can always, Elias is a great example. He leans in, he talks into the iPad, so that's greatly appreciated. And you can do that as well and use your softer voice. Those of you that are at home, you really don't have an excuse to not speak. You guys are at your house. So it should be fairly easy for you guys to speak up. We also have the chat that we can use where I can read the chat out loud. And then also, I do think the Padlet went really well last time, so you'll probably see more Padlets as well for discussions. So why do we need the camera on? Again, better engagement. We're trying to keep those grades up. Keep in mind, this is early in the quarter, so we want our grades to stay up. If you have your cameras on, you're most likely engaged in the lesson. You're looking at the screen, you're listening, you're paying attention to what's happening. So, just be mindful, cameras on help the engagement. Those of you that are at home, it's nice to see your faces. Again, I get to see the people at school. I don't get to see you guys. So cameras on, and that would be appreciated. So with our proficiency level, our standard is comparing and contrasting the text in different forms or genres. So in our case, we're going to use A Wrinkle in Time, and we also are going to use Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. And we're going to look at how both authors approach the text, maybe some similarities we notice, maybe some differences that we notice, and then also the approach to the theme. So what each author was trying to get across to us, a message that they were trying to get across, and how they went about doing that. So when we start down here at our low proficiency rate, that's just being able to identify the elements. So maybe you figure out what the genre is, or you figure out that the topics are similar, or maybe two characters are similar. Or maybe you look at them and you say, these characters are completely different. But either way, you're able to do that compare and contrast of smaller elements. As we continue to go into our partially proficient, this is where we can really determine textual elements in different forms or genres. So what are the different elements that we see that are different? And then as we come into proficient, we can compare and contrast the text. And we also can talk about the approaches that the authors took that were similar in the themes or in the topics and our characters. So these are things you want to pay attention to. A lot of times we do use a Venn diagram to help us break those down, or a T-chart, whichever is easiest for you. I prefer the Venn diagram because there is that point where it meets in the middle, and it does tell us in the middle the similarities, where the outside of the circles do tell us the differences. So first things first is our our confidence question. So how confident are you that you could explain to a peer the similarities and differences in the approach and theme of the stories A Wrinkle in Time and The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street? So this is where you'll take that 30 seconds to answer if you're confident, not confident, feeling somewhat confident. So I'm going to go ahead and give you that 30 seconds and pause that video now. All right, so on to our bell work. So the next slide here, we've got our bell work question where we define the words compare and contrast. So I want you guys to define compare and contrast. And I want these definitions to be in your own words. So tell me what it means to compare. Tell me what it means to contrast. Remember, it is a part A, part B question. So answer both parts. Do not just tell me what it is to compare and then tell me what it is to contrast. Or tell me what it is to contrast. I want you to do both, compare and contrast. So we're going to go ahead, pause here. All right, so our definitions, they're pretty straightforward. Compare is to see how things are similar. So what things do they have that make them alike? And contrast is to see how things are different. So what is it that makes them different? What causes them to be different? What are those differences is how we contrast. A theme to a story. This is important. If you cannot even identify what a theme is, it's going to be very hard to look at both pieces of text and determine, well, how can I compare and contrast the theme if I can't even find the theme? So when you're thinking of the theme, it is the dominant idea of a story. So how would you find that? One thing you want to look at is elements in the story that are repetitive. So if an author writes it out and you see it a few times throughout the story, good example would be like Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. We see a lot of times they're scared or they're backing away or that element of the emotion of fear. So we could say that somewhere in here there has to be a tide of fear. Our author really focuses a lot on that piece. So maybe the author's trying to tell us something about fear. So we would want to look into that deeper and analyze, which is what we did yesterday, to determine that the theme is based off of fear and what fear can do to us, how it can destroy us, how it can cause negative side effects. So we could look at that and say all of those could be a theme to A Monsters Are Due on Maple Street and also A Wrinkle in Time. So ask yourself, what does the author want you to know when you're reading in order to figure out the theme of a text? So we are going to go ahead and watch the Study Sync compare and contrast definition video. So I am going to pause here. If you would, please look at my screen. I will show it via WebEx where I share the screen. All right, so we have a Padlet here. So we're going to go ahead, jump into that Padlet, and you guys are going to start practicing comparing and contrasting. So of course, I know how much you guys love food, so I figured why not compare and contrast breakfast and lunch? What is similar? What is different about breakfast and lunch? So make sure when you do this, first in the title spot, put your name. Second, when you're in the write your answer spot, make sure that you're putting something like compare both our times we eat. And then I would put Miss Palmer. So that way I know you're comparing and then you're telling me what the comparison is. So I'm going to go ahead and pause and give you guys a few minutes. You guys can branch off of each other's thoughts and ideas. So go ahead, take this time to complete your Padlet. All right, so next we have a Venn diagram, and you're going to use it either on Google Draw It or you're going to use a piece of paper. If you use a piece of paper, you are required to take a picture and email that to me. So I will put my email in the chat if you choose to draw the Venn diagram on a piece of paper. If you want to use the Google Draw It, you can go in and for the iPads, it's probably easiest to go in and draw your circles. And then once you draw your circles, which actually you can use shapes. So let's go ahead and get the circles and I can show you here. So I got one circle, I'm going to do another circle. Because remember, our Venn diagrams, the circles connect, and in the middle is where the similarities are. So I can resize this. I can also make these transparent, just so you know when you're editing them and you want to make them, let's see, so change shape, we got the shape, formatting options. I want to, let's see, I want transparency. So we are going to make this one transparent. And this one, sorry guys, sometimes this takes a little playing around with. So I have to find the exact one that makes it look like it is. Oops, I'm just adding circles everywhere. This is why it may sometimes be easier to go in and just draw your circles, but let's see, we're going to fill color. We're going to make it transparent. There we go. So fill color. So when I go into my fill color, which is that little tool that looks like a paint can spilling, if you go in and hit transparent, it will make it look like they're connected here in the center, whereas that's where you put your similarities. Change your size, because obviously if you're putting text in there, you're going to need a nice big circle to put your text in. So you can play around with the sizing, fill it out here. I don't know how to get that reflection down there to go away, so we'll just ignore that. But then you can go in and add your text boxes. So you could put something here that makes them different. And then you'd want to put something on this side for your other story that makes them different. And label them up here, Wrinkle in Time, Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, above the circle. And then the similarities you would throw in the middle. So if they both have an element that's similar or something that you notice that's similar, you're going to put it where the circles connect. So again, this is a Venn diagram. This is one of the easiest ways you can look and visually see how something is similar and how something is different. So I'm going to go ahead, pause, and let you guys take the time to fill out your Venn diagram. And finally, our exit ticket. I'm going to go ahead and have you do this exit ticket, but this is a two-part. So what is the theme of A Wrinkle in Time and Monsters Are Due on Maple Street? How do you know? And use text evidence to support your answer. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to drop a Google form into your chat, and you're going to fill out the inferences and text evidence. If this is going to be one of the few times I do this, because this is going to count as a quiz grade, if you do not finish this in class, and there are a few parts, there's a journal in here, there's your text evidence in here, which I want to give you enough time in class. I hate to give you homework on the weekend, but it is a requirement because it is a quiz. And next week, we are trying to fit in time for you guys to practice your AZ merit testing, because that is coming up in April. So it is required to finish this. I am going to go ahead and give you the rest of class time to work on this. Please remember, I'm here if you need me. Either in the chat you can ask a question, or you can also ask me by unmuting yourself or doing the raise hand button to let me know you have a question. So thanks guys, and please make sure to get to work. Again, this is a quiz grade, so you have an exit ticket and a quiz. Thanks guys.